Okay, let's talk about designing a professional magazine spread. You know the ones I'm talking about? They look so effortless and clean when they're done, but man, getting there can feel like trying to solve a really complicated puzzle.
Right? We've all been there. You've got all the stuff you need, the stories, the images, the headlines, but that blank page is just staring you down. It can feel totally overwhelming just trying to figure out how to wrestle all that chaos into something that actually makes sense and, looks good.
But here's the big secret. It's not some kind of creative magic. It's a process, a repeatable process. And that's exactly what we're going to walk through today. A clear blueprint that'll take you from that scary blank page to a polished, professional-looking spread. So our blueprint actually starts way before you even think about opening InDesign or any other program. Phase 1 is all about the plan. Seriously, great design starts with thinking, not clicking.
And the very first thing you got to do is just take inventory. You have to know exactly what ingredients you're working with before you can even start cooking, right? So first things first, lay out all your content and just get a handle on what you've got. So what does that inventory actually look like? Well, you want to get specific. How many different stories are we working with? What's the word count for each one? What are your photo options? And then you have to make two really crucial decisions. Which story is the most important? And out of all your images, which single one is the most compelling? That combination right there, your most important article paired with your absolute best visual, that is what we call the focal point. Think of it this way. It's the star of your show. It is the anchor for your entire design. This really breaks down that whole idea of visual hierarchy. Your focal point is the main event. It should be the biggest, boldest thing on the page, the first thing that grabs the reader's attention. Everything else, that's just the supporting cast. They're going to be smaller, they're arranged around your star, and their job is to guide the reader's eye through the rest of the layout. All right, so once you've figured out that hierarchy, we can move on to phase 2. Now we're going to start making things visual, but we're keeping it super low tech. It is time to sketch out the basic framework. So yeah, grab a piece of paper, a pencil, and sketch out what designers call a dummy. This is just a super rough layout. Draw a big rectangle with an X through it for your main focal point image, and then just arrange the other smaller elements around it. Think simple blocks and shapes for now. And here is a fantastic pro tip. Honestly, this is a golden rule. Beginners almost always try to cram way too much onto the page. So if your paper sketch feels just a little bit empty, you're probably on the right track. That extra room, that's called white space, and it's absolutely essential for a clean, readable design. Okay, with our basic structure all sketched out, we can finally move into the really fun part, phase 3. This is where we design the details that will make your spread feel unified and intentional. Because that's the next big challenge, isn't it? You've got all these pieces arranged on the page, but how do you make them feel like they actually belong together? How do you create one single cohesive design instead of just a random collection of boxes? Well, here are 3 really simple ways to do it. First, you can pull a key color out of your main photo and use that for things like headlines or pull quotes. Second, maybe you can repeat a certain shape from an image in a graphic element somewhere else. And third, you can use simple lines or blocks of color to visually connect different parts of the spread. It's these little things that make a design feel purposeful. And that brings us to the final phase. This is where we take all this planning and sketching and finally bring it to life on the computer. It's time for the build and polish. Now, when you finally open your software, trust me, you want to follow this order. First, place all of your image frames. Get those big visual blocks in place. Then, create the text frames for your stories. And finally, add in those smaller graphic elements we just talked about. Get the bones right first, before you get lost in all the little details. Now, polishing. This requires 2 totally different ways of looking at your design. First, you need to zoom in and check the tiny details. Is the text readable? Are there any typos? But then, and this is so important, you have to zoom out. Look at the entire spread from a distance. Does that hierarchy we planned still work? Does your eye flow naturally from the big image outwards? Does the whole thing feel balanced? You need both views to really get it right. And that's really the whole journey right there. We went from a messy pile of content to a clear plan, and from a rough paper sketch all the way to a polished final page. So, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Good design is not some lightning bolt of inspiration that strikes out of nowhere. It's a methodical, thoughtful process. It's a skill that you can learn and practice just by following a clear set of steps. So now you have the blueprint. The only real question left is, what story is your design going to tell?